To be a kid in Down East Maine, they just don't have the opportunity to see and hear and be exposed to many of the things that even someone possibly in Ellsworth or certainly into Bangor.
We find less kids doing athletics, band, these type of things. More kids probably working.
I say many, many times, our schools are about the only thing that many of our communities have as something that everyone can gather and everyone can come around.
I grew up here in Harrington, and my dad was a carpenter and a general contractor in the area. My mom worked in the blueberry factory, and I started raking blueberries for my summer job when I was 10.
In the past here at Narragansett, we had offered a music teacher who was here 3 different periods of the day. Then the pandemic struck, of course, and he did whatever he could over Zoom. And then this gentleman's wife, her mother got sick, so they decided to move.
Currently our music room is being used as a Jobs for Maine grads classroom, a regular ed classroom. We would like to hire somebody full-time. We just aren't finding that person.
We just said, oh, well, we're going to have to make it through for the year, but hopefully we would find someone for this year. And again, this year, no one applied for the position.
So the last couple of years we've had long-term subs teaching music, on which they're doing an exceptional job, but they're not able to provide the musical instrument instruction and provide a band, which was at one point, a tradition here in this community. And unfortunately, music education was one that suffered the most from the pandemic.
How important was it to have access to the arts? I still remember going to musical performances at University of Maine at Machias and the Grand Theater in Ellsworth, and it was a real lifeline. I used to go sometimes to those performances or, travel to go to a museum or a cool bookstore or something like that, and just think about, like, when I grow up, this is how I want my life to be.
So currently the Maine Seacoast Missions EDGE program has been working with MAMM over the past couple years to do more remote opportunities. When schools went remote due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we didn't have the in-person classes anymore. So we offered to about 15 to 20 students over the past couple years online weekly music lessons that really allowed the students that we work with to connect with experts from MAMM to really continue their musical career.
The benefits to a partnership with MAMM and with EDGE is it really gives our kids exposure to things that often kids in cities have access to. In some of the bigger school districts just in the state of Maine can offer, like, general music, music technology, all these types of things that, we're lucky if we can just facilitate, all right, this is a C note.
The benefit between our district and our school being in a partnership with MAMM is that you can offer us things that we can't otherwise do, almost like the EDGE did.
In an area like this with smaller schools, athletics are definitely prioritized, and this is such a unique experience because very few places around here offer this. I had a great experience performing with other artists, which is new to me. This has been my first time performing in front of an audience, so I think this has really inspired me to branch out there and put myself out there for performing on my own in the next year.
I think there is a good amount of arts going on in the county for as small as we are, but it's not on the level that someone could give us from, a Bangor or a Portland or, all those larger places in Maine. And so I think it's the contacts that you have, the access that you have, the ideas that you have, because I'm just a high school principal.
one of the things I think is really important is for kids growing up here to understand that you can live here and be an artist here and find ways to be a working artist if that's something that you want to do, or you can do it as your hobby. But having access to see other musicians from Maine who are living an artistic life and able to travel and find ways to work as artists or teaching artists, I think is really important. If you don't have those models, then you think whoever you're listening to on your iPad, like that's the only way to be a musician. The arts are one of the most underfunded sectors within philanthropy, and yet when times are hard, people need art more than they need almost anything else except food and shelter. And so even if you think about the pandemic and you think about how we all turned to film and we turned to music and we turned to TV and we turned to books and all of those things when we were isolated, when we were at our lowest point, that is what art does, and that is what art can do in Washington County, which is one of the most inspiring and one of the most potential-filled places in the state, maybe in the country, but also one of the most isolated and challenging. And so I think $1 spent to support MAMM's work in Washington County can yield an amazing return and is $1 that might not otherwise find its way here.